Hello everybody, I'm Jonathan Edwards and welcome to Cruising America's Waterways. Now this is the second of two programs exploring New York State's Finger Lakes region, one of America's top tourist destinations and a great boating and fishing region. Now we've already visited some great places and met some interesting people. And now crew member Nancy and Captain Mark continue their adventure, so let's get underway.
We're cruising west on the Cayuga-Seneca Canal that connects Cayuga and Seneca Lakes, the two largest Finger Lakes. This flight of two locks will lift our boat about 50 feet as we make our way to Seneca Falls. America's canals were built to serve commercial needs when an industry's survival depended on low-cost water transportation. Today, these same canals provide a cruising highway for tourists who are attracted to the historic corridor they developed. Seneca Falls provides a welcoming waterfront with ample dockage, electricity, water, and nearby shops, restaurants, and museums. This picturesque community is the birthplace of women's rights in the United States. Ideas that reshaped our thinking and cultural development around the world were born right here.
Imagine you're a woman living in the mid-1800s. Things were very different from the way we find them today. Among other things, women couldn't own property. Their money could be confiscated by their husbands. Women couldn't even vote in a country where they were subject to laws. Well, things were changing. In 1848, here in Seneca Falls, women held the first National Women's Rights Convention. And among other things, they signed the Declaration of Sentiments, which you see right here on the wall. It was patterned after the Declaration of Independence, and the whole idea was that it's not just men who are created equal, but men and women who are created equal. Another thing that came out of the whole women's movement was the idea that women should be a little more comfortable physically as well. And one of these women, Amelia Bloomer, made popular the costume you see me wearing now. And of course, the pants that were underneath it became known as bloomers.
There are many historic homes in this region, such as McClintock House, where the Declaration of Sentiments was written.
This has really been a trip of birthplaces today,
Yes.
hasn't it? Seneca Falls. Now we're coming into the lock at Waterloo.
In 1866, in Waterloo, they originated the idea of Memorial Day. They closed all the stores, and veterans and others marched to the cemeteries and decorated the graves of the war dead.
Wow.
And then 100 years later, it was declared the official birthplace of Memorial Day.
So women's rights,
Memorial
just
Day,
downstream.
yeah,
Memorial Day, just upstream.
just upstream. And of course, we're on the historic canal.
Full of history and birthplaces.
Yes.
Our next port of call is Geneva.
Sometimes you want to stop and have a drink or a snack, or maybe just get off your boat and walk around for a while. Well, there's lots of restaurants along the way, and behind me right now is the Crow's Nest, and this is on Seneca Lake in Geneva, and it's a great place to go if you want to do just that.
Seneca Lake State Park's marina is conveniently located in Geneva, where the canal enters the lake.
4 feet of water in there, and of course we're going to consume about 32 inches of that, so we're going to see how close we can get. If not, we just take one of the mooring balls. We can tie up to one of those. But I'd rather have it on the dock right in front of the pier there. That'd be nice. Look at how clear this water is.
That is beautiful.
Look at it.
She's begging me to jump in.
Is that fish?
It almost looks like you've done this before, Mark.
Practice, practice, practice. Here, let's see what we can do with this. This is nice, huh?
Beautiful.
We tied up for the night at Geneva on the lake. Not surprisingly, many of this region's accommodations can be reached by water.
Geneva on the Lake, as we know it today, really has its origins in Frascati, a little city south of Rome, Italy. The Geneva on the Lake is modeled after the Villa Lanceloti, which is in Frascati. It was built in 1911 to 14 by the Nestors, people in the malt business and real estate business, and they shipped the processed barley malt through the Erie Canal system, all through the Northeast. So the importance of water in relation to Geneva on the Lake was here from the beginning. After being a private home, it was a monastery. The Capuchin Fathers were here from 1949 to 1974. They had a seminary and monastery. And then it was empty for a few years, and it became an inn, a little small resort in 1981. And today it is owned by the family that owns Stickley Furniture Company, and it's a beautiful kind of year-round place of hospitality, really.
In the morning, we cast off heading south on Seneca Lake. On our port side, we passed Rose Hill Mansion overlooking the lake. This 27-room Greek Revival home and National Historic Landmark was built by General William K. Strong in 1839 and later occupied by the state's model farmer, Robert Swan. Almost directly across the lake is Belhurst Castle, a Romanesque-style inn built in 1890. Sampson State Park was once the second largest naval training station in the country, processing over 400,000 sailors. In addition to the usual park facilities, a museum built by Navy veterans now honors and interprets the history of this site that served America from 1942 through the 50s.
Come starboard, 10 degrees. You're on the starboard. There you go. So if you pick a point on the horizon and steer that point, and then just frequently glance down at your compass, you'll hold and maintain a much straighter course.
Okay.
If you stare at your compass,
You're gonna
fishtail all the way down the lake. But see, now that you're taking a look at the horizon,
so we're going straight.
you're going straight.
And then this tells you all your depth, so you know
See all this
how
white
close you can go, right?
paper here?
That means it's all okay.
White paper's good. And you look at these lakes, they're almost entirely all white paper.
You can change the name of them to the white paper
White
lake.
paper lakes. It's about 600 feet. In this area that we are right now, we're about
100.
600, a little better actually. And then when you get down towards the Watkins Glen area, it climbs a couple hundred to 400, and then 300 feet.
Very shallow.
Yeah, very shallow.
The cruise to Watkins Glen took about 2 hours under my command. Well, sort of my command.
You gonna back in?
Yeah, you always want to, this kind, because if we bowed into this slip, we would have to get off and go over the rail. So when you have just a short dock, it's always better to back in so you can just walk off the back. Walk off the transom.
You want me to get a line from in here?
The captain's got the crew moving. Done.
Done. This is nice.
That's where we came from. Nice.
Now, we learned earlier that there is salt below the lakes here. There's a layer of salt that was put down by ancient oceans when they dried up. What we're going to find out today is how you mine that salt, how you bring that up to the surface. You don't actually go down with a shovel and dig.
No, some people do, but we don't do that here. We pump water down to 2,500 to 3,000 feet deep, and we dissolve that salt down there. That produces a saturated brine that's pushed up through another well and brought back to our plant to be evaporated.
You put it in packages for just about every application you can think of.
That's right. We put it into round cans of salt that you'll see in your kitchen, and you'll put into salt shakers. We'll put it in 50 and 80 pound bags to be used by bakeries and different industries. We make salt pellets for water softener salt, 50 pound blocks for cattle. We make a pharmaceutical grade salt here too at Watkins Glen, the bulk salt for chemicals and things of that nature.
So how many tons do you produce here a year?
About 300,000 tons of salt per year, and that equates to approximately 50 trucks a day out of here and about 20 rail cars a week.
You know the expression that somebody's not worth their salt, because at one time people were paid in salt.
Right.
And when you weren't worth your salt, you weren't worth the money you were paid. Wow, what a view.
Awesome, isn't it?
And we're only part way up this cliff.
I think it's about half.
Wow.
You know, but there's still
Fantastic.
a long ways down.
That's amazing. And there's a big hole at the bottom here from an old waterfall. We're at Watkins Glen State Park, and with me is the assistant park manager, whose name is Cliff, and cliffs are what we're here to see.
That's true, and when you walk this gorge trail, you'll see plenty of them. It starts here at the main entrance with cliffs that range from about 300 feet, and as you go up through the gorge, there's some that are a bit taller and there's some that aren't as tall.
Now you can walk a trail way back into the gorge.
That's correct. It's a 1.5 mile long gorge trail that has 832 stone steps, 18 different waterfalls from 40 feet to 2 feet in height. They're all very spectacular.
This was actually opened as a tourist attraction in the 1800s.
That's
Somebody
correct.
noticed the beauty here.
In the late 1800s it was opened, and the state took it over in the early 1900s. Since that time it's been a world famous tourist attraction.
Watkins Glen has long been a professional race car venue.
We're here at the Grand Prix Formula One banked up racetrack, and I am here for one reason only.
I'm going to do my best to uphold women, but we're no longer in Seneca Falls, and I don't know whether I can handle this pressure.
This is the one. No, get away from my engine, get away. Oh, my toe is a little bit, I'm towed out over here. We gotta adjust that. We have got to adjust that. Where?
Which way do you go? I don't know which way to go.
How can I win if I can't get in my seatbelt?
He won. He went around me. He lapped me, like very early in the race.
Okay.
And I was never able to catch him.
Hammondsport is located on the southern tip of Keuka Lake. Surrounded by vineyards, this is the home of the Glenn Curtis Museum. The band, well, they're here in celebration of the flying boat. Details to follow.
Well, this museum is actually, it's awesome. I mean, a lot of people believe, you know, that Kitty Hawk is really the birthplace of flight. But
It
this
sure
is
doesn't
actually,
look like it if you look at this.
Isn't that something? This is actually, Hammondsport is actually referred to as the cradle of flight. And there's a lot of firsts that went on here, you know, and Glenn Curtis, obviously,
was right up there, and
producing all those firsts.
that's right.
He created the first radial engine, you know, the big round ones with all the pistons hanging out all over the side. We might get a chance to see a couple of those around here. The aileron.
The aileron is his?
And you know why he created that aileron?
No, why?
So the planes could go around in a circle and make nice coordinated, keyword, coordinated turns. Coordinated turns. Actually, here in Hammondsport, it was the first place that a circular flight was made.
Is that right? Well,
Yeah.
what did they do before?
Straight line.
Just straight ahead.
Straight ahead. Yeah. Without the aileron, see the
You
aileron.
can go, but you can't come back.
See those at the tail end of the wing? That's the aileron. It's kind of like a rudder
The
in the
flaps
boat.
up and down.
That's
huh?
it. Little pressure on top, low pressure on the bottom. Round goes the airplane. You know what else I want to check out? Which is another first. I want to see the flying boat.
The flying boat?
The flying boat, because I'm really partial to that seaplane thing. What do you
Show
think?
me where it is.
Let's go take a look.
Okay.
This is it.
And that means it lands on water?
This boat actually lands on water, and it can actually propel itself up on a beach. So you can fly right from the pond right to the beach.
That is incredible.
As far as seaplane aviation, he's the first. And they'll actually fly this plane in August. They're actually working on the very plane.
Wow, wouldn't you love
Neat
to see
stuff.
that fly?
I
Wouldn't
gotta
you
be
love
here.
to be there flying it?
No doubt about it. A lot of neat stuff in here. Well, we've actually are lucky enough to end up in the restoration shop.
This is where they built the flying boat?
This is where they built the flying boat, that's right. They also repair and restore some of Curtis's ideas.
Gee.
Everything that's done in here is voluntary. You know, all the people that work in here, they work on the wings.
Just do it
and
for the love of it,
Just
huh?
do it for the love of it. Absolutely
It
fantastic.
astounds me that anything this fragile looking can support a person and an engine.
That's the key to success in aviation. Lightweight, yet very strong. Yeah. Doesn't the shop just have this old-time feel to it?
It really does.
Everywhere there are great places to boat, to dine, to rest, and to learn about the unusual and the common.
What's in there?
It's just corn syrup and sugar, and when we cook it up to about 248 degrees, we throw in a half a stick of butter, take it up to our final temperature, which will depend on whatever flavor we're making. When I bought it years ago, we had 4 flavors, and now we're at 24.
So for 19 years, you've been making taffy?
We've been slugging away.
Do you do it every day?
Every day. As it cools, you'll see it begin to kind of pull together.
The real fun begins when the taffy is cool enough to be put on the hook and pulled. It's this process that incorporates air into the confection, giving it its soft, chewy texture. The colors and flavors are added during pulling. Each batch is 18 pounds and makes about 200 pieces. The most popular flavors are chocolate and strawberry. It takes 5 to 10 minutes of hard work at the hook to complete a batch. This old-fashioned, hand-pulled taffy finds its way into over 250 outlets, from Disneyland to the Vermont Country Store catalog. This homegrown business proves that smaller can be better. Speaking of which,
somehow it's not doing as well as it was when he was doing it.
Color looks good.
Just get right in there, show it who's boss.
If I got left this business, I would be really in serious trouble because this is harder than it looks. Now, if you got a piece of taffy that gives you,
would you buy this thing of taffy?
And you'd say, "Whoa, this looks tasty, doesn't it?" Well, now we've arrived in Naples, New York, which is at the head of beautiful Canandaigua Lake. And this country is known for grapes. Grapes are all around us on all the hillsides. And if you were to drive through town, you'd find that even the fire hydrants are grape purple. And we've come to Gentner's Valley View Farm, which is aptly named. As you can see, there's an absolutely gorgeous view of the valley behind me. The reason we're here, well, the tarts weren't enough, the salad wasn't enough, the taffy wasn't enough. We wanted some grape pie. Grape pie? They do make pie out of grapes, and we're here to find out how. But making grape pies is a little harder than making apple pies.
Definitely, yes. We have to go out into the vineyards, which you saw when you arrived here, and we have to pick the grapes off. You bring them in, and then each grape has to be picked off by hand, and then after you do that, you pinch each one to remove the pulp. You cook that up until it's soft.
Like you're making jam or something.
Yep. And then you run it through a sieve to remove the seeds. So you're using the whole grape minus the seeds.
But then, and then you actually take the skin and put it back in?
Right, they're in here.
So then you get all that texture and the
Everything
color.
is in here except seeds. Now we're going to add our ingredients.
Special secret ingredients that make it just the way she likes it.
Okay, now we're going to do our crust.
A lot of people have never heard of a grape pie and can't imagine what it would taste like. Is it a regional thing?
It is, but it's getting better known.
So that's just water?
This is milk.
Oh, that's milk. Oh, that's a great way of doing it. A little sugar. That's what gives it that nice golden looking glaze when you're all done.
And now I'll sign it.
And in the oven it goes.
In the oven it goes.
Now, if you want some of this, I unfortunately just can't get it to you, so you're going to have to come here to the Finger Lakes and ask for some grape pie.
still dreaming of grape pie, we were on our way to Canandaigua, on the northern tip of Canandaigua Lake. All of the Finger Lakes are great for sailing and fishing, as well as powerboating. We docked here for the night. In the morning, we visited the spectacular Sonnenberg Gardens.
This mansion was built in 1887 for the Frederick Thompson family. And they would bring their friends up and entertain them lavishly.
So this is the summer house?
This is their summer house.
Unbelievable.
So this is the playground for the summer. And after he died, Mary Clark Thompson traveled a great deal, and she was a real avid gardener, loved to garden.
This is absolutely gorgeous in here.
Yeah. A tea house, a complete tea house. Now,
So
I
that
understand
means
she had this built in 1906. Brought in a Japanese architect to create a Japanese garden.
it's amazing all the different influences that Sonnenberg has. You know, we see
everywhere you look, there's something a little different. Apparently, Mary Clark Thompson traveled a lot and picked up ideas everywhere she went. She was a world traveler. And this is a pergola. It's an Italian influence. This is the butterfly garden, and all of these species will attract butterflies. They like to come in here and sit on the flowers. You know that there's over 2,400 rose plants in this garden.
2,400?
2,400.
All maintained by volunteers?
Volunteers, isn't that amazing? And this is the kind of garden that people would have liked to have, oh, maybe Victorian times.
We made our way out of the gardens heading east and dined at the Cobblestone Restaurant, housed in a fully restored 1825 farmhouse.
Well, we have made it to Skaneateles, and Skaneateles is at the northern end of Skaneateles Lake, which is, of course, one of the Finger Lakes. It's a beautiful lake. It's long, it's deep, it's nice and cool no matter what the temperature is like outside. Now, boats have gone up and down this lake forever, obviously, and some of the boats that are kind of interesting include the mail boat that delivered mail to the campers up and down the lake. Also, what we see behind me, the Judge Ben Wiles. Judge Ben Wiles is an old boat that used to be on the waters here and still is. Now it has a slightly different function in that it takes tourists up and down for dinner cruises, lunch cruises, sightseeing cruises, and the cruises are all narrated, telling the stories of the people who live on this lake.
I have a luncheon cruise with a full boat. Get the flags up, I gotta go check the engine, check the oil and the water, and make sure everything's okay down there. Captains have to do everything. The pier that we just backed alongside of, which is now off to our left, serviced the many steamboats that plied the waters of Skaneateles Lake from the early 1800s to around 1910. The largest of these steamboats was called the City of Syracuse. The City of Syracuse was 110 feet long at the waterline and carried over 300 passengers, mail, freight, groceries, and even livestock to the various steamboat stops. Yeah. Bye, you're welcome. See you later, Dr. Petters. Hi. Happy boating, you Americans, fellow Americans.
Well, this completes our tour of New York State's Finger Lakes region. What a beautiful place. And thanks for traveling with us on Cruising America's Waterways. I'm Jonathan Edwards, and we'll see you next time.